Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. A library tour instigated by Lord Ganesha, in which we go through every book on my shelf, one by one, book by book, forever. Because we're not just doing the books on the shelves. Now, we're doing all the books that have always been on the shelves. All of them, even the ones I don't have anymore. And I have, right now, a comparatively small number of books for any period of time when I was not traveling. I have pared back on my printed books quite a bit. Not from any kind of austerity this time around. I've done pairings in the past where I did for austerity reasons, for minimalism reasons, but rather because of redundancy reasons. I have an iPad. It is my constant companion, and it has thousands of books on it. And I read most of my books in e-form. I read by swiping the page, by swiping the panel on my iPad. Totally convenient, totally easy. I can. The thing is always at my fingertips, except when I'm out walking the dog. It's always at my fingertips. It's always charged. It's new. It works just fine. It has all of these books. They are at my fingertips. If I want to read some new release or some upcoming book, it's right there. If I decide, I try a little and think, I'm not really in the mood for this. I really want something else. I can find something else right then. No need to get up. No need to disturb the dog. No need to do anything. It's all right there on that one machine. And as long as that's the case, and as long as that's so much of my reading, the idea of having an enormous personal library, 5 times as big as the one I have now. I still love printed books and I still read them all the time. But the idea of having an enormous, 6,000 book library all around me is ridiculous when so much of my reading is being done on one little 1-pound slate of metal and glass. So uh, there aren't a lot of books on the shelves now compared to what there has been, but I have a record of all of them and I have thoughts about all of them. So we'll be getting to all of those as well, and all the books on that iPad. But for now, I thought I would finish out the month of March. March is the month of March Mystery Madness, month-long BookTube event where we talk about all things murder mystery, all the different kinds, all the different protagonists, the rules and when they're broken, all that sort of stuff. So much fun. And in honor of March Mystery Madness, which is winding down, I thought that my library tour of doom for the end of March would be a few murder mysteries. And that's what we've got today, going back 1,500 years. We're going back to the Tang Dynasty. This is Poets and Murder by Robert Van Gulik. This is a Judge D mystery. These wonderful, totally distinctive University of Chicago paperbacks that are not quite a mass market. As you can see, they're wider than a mass market. They're the same dimensions, except they're a little wider. And they did all of the Judge D books this way, so they look very distinctive. I had them as they came out. I was enjoying the heck out of them. I actually got them before this design. I started reading them before this design. This is the design right before this one, and loved them. It's about a judge in the Tang Dynasty, a scholar and a judge named D, who is sort of a walking, talking court. He has total regional authority in his domain. So when he encounters a mystery, there is no reason for him to make a case for the law courts, because he is the law. There's no reason for him to, for instance, buddy up with the local police, because he is the police. If he tells you you're arrested, you are arrested. You are arrested by the law in person. And D is an imperious person. He can snap. He can be temperamental. He is very wise and very insightful. He misses almost nothing, even when the details that he doesn't miss don't make any sense to him right away. He still catches them. They come back. So he's a wonderful main figure. He really works as a main figure in book after book after book. And he was, as Robert Van Gulik knows best of all, he was an actual historical figure. He just didn't have any of these adventures, although quite a bit of Tang era history and tiny little details are worked in here by the author, who knew everything about the subject matter, including in this book, as you can tell, kind of sort of from that cover, even without knowing it, fox lore. Chinese fox lore runs throughout this particular book, which is about the settled and seemingly placid world of academia. Official testing, publishing, calligraphy, poetry, that sort of thing. One of the main characters in here is a very famous poetess. And into that world comes murder. Comes murder and the threat of more murder. That's a motif that we see in the Judge D books over and over again. Is some settled world that doesn't seem like the precinct for murder suddenly becoming one, and D happens to be there or is involved one way or another. It's a little unnerving how often he is simply enjoying some other magistrate's hospitality when he is snagged into murder. You'd think maybe he would eat in more often. But these are told in a very straightforward way, and in these editions, the author also provides period style illustrations. So you can't really tell when we're split down the middle here. Let me get you one that's just one page. Yeah, there we go. These are done in the manner of ancient Chinese woodcuts and whatnot, and tapestries and whatnot. They're not meant to look. They're meant to look stylized. That's Judge D at the table, and they're meant to. And look at all the foxes. They're meant to look stylized in that way, and that's just terrific. Van Gulik often includes an afterword or an introduction to let you know a little bit about the historical settings of the period. In this case, there's quite a bit to know because you've got warring philosophies, including there's Buddhism and Taoism and whatnot, and there's also a beginning a philosophy that's taking hold all over China that we would come to know as Zen. And I don't know a whole lot about those things, so it's terrific to read about them in the hands of such a master who is really good at exposition. He's really good at exposition in the sense of not making it look or feel like exposition. His characters explain things. It's so that you come out of these books learning a lot, but they are also wonderfully enjoyable. Just wonderfully. I've had this set. I got these white mass market sets as they were coming out. They used to come to the bookstore, each one individually wrapped in plastic. I think probably because the binding is bad and they didn't want them to be torn apart before the customer could buy it. But I had a whole set of that and gave it to a friend, and then I had another whole set years later, and I gave that to another friend, and I just thought, well, okay, I'll just wait. I'll find these at used bookstores. But as I've mentioned, distinctive and quality mass market paperbacks aren't something that you're just naturally going to find at bookstores anymore. There's a huge amount of attrition involved. They are showing up less and less. And it was Todd Oval, I believe, who sent me a whole set of these that he, I guess, had and maybe didn't need. Maybe he had hardcovers or whatnot. But one way or another, I have the whole set in the other room. And you might think, having endured the library tour of Doom, that if I've shown you Poets and Murder, I don't need to show you any of the others, that they won't be part of the library tour of Doom. But they will be. They will be. He commands it. Okay? Every book. No shortcuts. But I certainly can recommend this one. I can recommend all the books in the Judge D series. They're so good. Just so good. So for March Mystery Madness, I'm recommending not only an author and a character, but a whole series. You can find them. They're all worth your time. And you don't have to worry about where you come in the series at all. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the first one is. You can jump in anywhere. Van Gulik also wrote sort of a more historical volume that I think was not part of this. I think of this University of Chicago series. I'm pretty sure that for copyright reasons, it was, I think, Dover editions that came out with that one originally. But I haven't seen it reprinted by anybody else. You could find that if you wanted to, but you don't need to. Judge D is just as convincing as a fictional character as he ever was as a historical character. So well worth your time. I'm going to wrap this up. That's our library tour of Doom for today. We'll probably do mysteries for the rest of March. So I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.